first came. Through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high, sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong.
Welcome brothers, welcome sisters, welcome to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you have the opportunity to pick up your telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues, any topical issue or issue trending. But you can change the topic anytime you're ready. You can come up with a total different subject matter. Our country, in Grenada, democracy is alive and well. And we have more radio stations, perhaps, than any other country in the region. And people do express themselves. You too have an opportunity to share your views on subject matter. The politics is hot in Grenada. The voting started. The police started voting 6 o'clock this morning. And they will end at 5. And then the rest of the population will vote on Thursday at 6 in the morning. And we had the two last mega cow one by NNP and one by NDC. And in Grenada, both parties can pull out massive crowd. I guess both parties would have around 10,000 people or more in their pack. So in the next 3 days, you would determine who would cry, who would be happy, who would be jolly, and who would win election. Because some always cry. After election, you always have some people cry. Always have some people celebrating. What is important, our country's development should continue, you know. And yesterday was also Father's Day. And Father's Day, way back in the Middle Ages, was St. Joseph Day. Catholics principally celebrate St. Joseph Day, I think, in March as Father's Day. But it was Sonora Smart, Dad, from the United States, that advocated for the celebration of Father's Day. And that started in 1910. And from then onwards, that day is declared as Father's Day. It's an opportunity to honor fatherhood, paternal bonds, as well as the influence of fathers in our society. You know, fathers are called to protect, to provide, to be a confidant and a mentor to the family. In this present era, in Grenada and a number of other Caribbean countries, sometimes the roles of the male is somewhat diluted. I wouldn't say that we are at risk or loss or apart, but I think more and more the influence of the male in the family and in the society is significantly diluted. Sometimes systematically, although I don't think it is malicious in intent. But because efforts have been made to promote women over the years, rightly so, sometimes opportunities for the male have been seriously sidelined. And that perhaps makes Father's Day more important in our society. To create back the awareness, the consciousness, and the understanding of the role of the father. So you don't have to be a biological father. But if you influence, you have serious influence, then you have act like a father figure. In some houses, the brothers might be the father figure in the house for children, particularly where the father is absent, non-existent, a travel to greener pastures. Many times, some homes, you have a lot of father figures. Even in the neighborhood, some neighbors' children benefit from the kind of paternal influence of other members in the society. And I think that should be encouraged. And we have to continue to take a serious look at the males in our society. There seems to be challenged to compete. There seems to be totally outplaced by the women. Even in politics, it's so glaring in politics. I think we have on the NNP side about 7 women running for election. And on the NDC side, I think what you have 4 women, 2 in St. Andrews, 1 in Gulf, about 3 or 4 women, I think. And more and more in the future, you will see women dominating Grenada politics. I don't know, 10, 15 years from now, it might be difficult to get a man in politics. If it continues, women are doing much better academically in school. And even when you observe people going for drivers who drive cars, the young women are going and get a license. A lot of the boys don't have license. So although they're driving vehicle and mashing it up, they don't have a legal license. And the schools, more and more of the males cannot meet the minimum requirement in school. That minimum requirement is something that we have to continue speaking about, because I always see about 70% of the children exiting secondary school because of the poor level of productivity are not meeting the minimum requirement in school. And it is not in Grenada alone, throughout the Caribbean. But imagine the males. The males are getting seriously left behind. So it is important for all of us, because when the males are not performing well in society, it could provide a serious challenge. And the number to call is 4420175, and you could give me a call. I will always read your posts. Good afternoon. Hope your weekend was great. Yes, I had a good weekend. It was an exciting period of time. Even if I did not attend none of the massive political rallies, you couldn't avoid them. You saw them going around in jubilation, chanting their songs, and some in motorcade. Sometimes green and yellow intermingle in the motorcade, going in different directions. But it was all very good nature. The politics in Grenada, I always believe that Grenada is one of the most mature countries in the Caribbean where politics is concerned. And our politics has been relatively very peaceful. You might have heard incidents where 1 or 2 people might have torn down a poster or 2, but the amount of posters I see up, the amount of flags I see up, I think this is a time in our history when we have the most aid, flags, and pictures of candidates scattered all about the place. So I think generally Grenadians have a fair measure of tolerance for the different political views. Although you hear heated statements, some of them you would not like to hear. You would have preferred not to have. And there are some incidents that you would not have liked to be on or record where election history is concerned, but it is. Grenada had the situation not like other countries where one side have won all the seats on 3 occasions. I think in Barbados have just had 2 occasions where Mia Motley won all the seats. So you see some changes in the Caribbean. Maybe people are saying if a government is performing good, why not keep them in total? This time both sides are claiming that they can win all the seats. The NDC seems to be very confident and they believe they can sweep all the seats. They can get 15 seats. The NNP seems to be confident, but I see they've been appealing to the people not to be complacent. Because in most areas you expect the competition to be very close and maybe people winning or losing by a couple dozen votes. So it will be a hotly and keenly contested election. And by Thursday, 6:30 in the evening, you are already able to declare victory. One side will declare victory by 6:30. Our electoral system in Grenada is very good. The integrity of it is practically unquestionable. For years, from 1984, no one has successfully challenged any irregularities, real or perceived, have not challenged any irregularity. And it means that both sides generally very confident in the electoral system. So we have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
I think I'll be very careful today. But I saw a video with somebody was acting. It's a play really, but just calling people's name and saying wrong thing. I just want to know if they could get a lawsuit for doing this kind of thing. I will elaborate in another time, but it's a video is acting and he's poor acting skills. You know, he's poor acting skills.
What you said? Poor acting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them was exposed in that same video. I know, so they know what it's come conspiracy. So I don't know if anybody could get in trouble for that. Because it's a play. I don't know if it's seriously a play, but to me, who are watching it is a play. So I don't know if anybody could get any lawsuit for that. They came up here.
Well, there's so much things going on social media now, and sometimes you see people practically naked on social media. The social media has taken things to an extent that I think baffles some of our authorities, whether religious, political, or social authorities. Because once you walk out from your room, you're in the public domain. When an accident takes place, everybody, not everybody, but a significant number of people will pull out their phone. They're not thinking about rescuing the people. They pull out their phone. You have a little fight or scuffle and people pull out their phone. You have a fire and people pull out their phone. Now you go back to way in the Romans' time when people enjoy fighting. But in today's everyday life, it seems as though everybody become a director of a movie. So any incidents, you have neighbors cussing and people pull out their phone. People go to the church and they have their phone to snap the pastor and the priest. And every mistake is recorded on social media. So now it's difficult to find what is suable, what people could do that you could take them to task for. And if you don't have you're not a professional, sometimes people ask, why sue you? Because you don't have anything. So people are relatively free on social media, and not in Grenada alone, all over the world. and they are really changing the value system. You know, what is right, what is wrong. There seems to be a very blurred line of demarcation between what is right and what is wrong. So I've not seen the video that you speak about, but the amount of things I see on social media, you know, it is difficult to think that is easy to sue people for what is on social media. The number to call is 442-0175, and you could give us a call on any subject matter. Yes, and we speak about Father's Day. Now, in our society, we have to pay more attention to the males in our society. We have to be concerned, because if you have communities and the males are not doing as well as you expect them to do, then there might be more social decadence, more problems in society. And everybody should be concerned, particular parents. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
Well, I believe today is a special day, so I'm wondering what limit you have in the political arena, because when around this time people like to talk politics, so I was wondering.
I don't think you have any restriction or anything like that.
Because they were saying when the police voting, you shouldn't be.
When the police,
about 6 o'clock.
yeah, the police is voting, so one should be. You cannot do or you shouldn't do or say anything to influence anybody at this point in time. So between 6 o'clock this morning and 5 o'clock this evening, one have to hold the political explosions for a while. You know, it does not mean you cannot make remarks, but one have to avoid campaigning. If that is more apt, one have to avoid campaigning. And all these things are put in place to make, for the integrity, to maintain the integrity of the election process in Grenada. You know?
Yeah.
These things.
What I've seen a lot of desperation this last few days, you know. People start getting vexed with what, you know.
Well, on the last us in the society have to still, you know, speak and encourage people to calm down.
Yes.
On both sides. You know? We're going to have exchanges, but we have to encourage people to calm down, because remember, we have to live together. You know? Sometimes you see occasion when two people from two different political parties might be hung up taking a picture. All these things are good. You know, and should be encouraged. You don't want much animosity, you don't want much quarreling, you don't want much bitterness, because tomorrow, when Thursday afternoon come, we have to start to live together like one. You know? And
yeah, we have a meeting tonight, 6:30, so there's bus terminal, you know.
And that will be after the vote take place.
Yeah, like 30 minutes to 7 somewhere.
Okay.
After the vote, we'll be going to, we didn't go there as yet. We're going and explain certain things there to the people.
You call that last minute mopping up?
Yeah, we're mopping up.
Yeah. You're going to have that on that's acceptable. People have the big explosion had gone Sunday, and now you're going to have last minute mopping up on both sides.
Yeah.
Where you encourage people to exercise their right, and you also use the opportunity to explain to them about the electoral system. Because once we have confidence in the electoral system and we speak about it, it means that other people will also have confidence in it. It's we to make we think stronger. There is no need And I always say that there is no need to cry down Grenada unnecessary. Yes, Colin?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Grenada is one of the most peaceful countries in the Caribbean where election is concerned. In other areas, there's have more violence and more. Yeah, everybody is good. We have a name for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Colin. Yes, I think it's a good opportunity for people who is knowledgeable about the process to explain the process to people. The polling station open at 6. There will be people there since 5 o'clock in the morning. Some people have a track record of voting first, and they like that. You know, the tradition. And in every polling division, every polling station, you're going to have a representative of the political parties. And if you have an independent person running, there are some independents in this election, you're going to have a representative from them. And you may have 2 policemen there. And then you have a presiding officer and a poll clerk. And the names that could vote will be the names on the list. And I am almost everybody in that polling station there would have known the people who come in and vote. So when somebody come in and vote, by the time they see you outside, they get your name and your number long on the list. Because they know you. They come from the same polling division. They come from the same community. And Grenada is a small place. And maybe if you have 300 people in a polling station, then people would know almost all the 300 people. They will know which people dead. They will know who out of the island. They will know who walking in St. George's and just come up on weekend. Because we are small countries. And irrespective, sometimes people talk about dead people on the list. There will always be dead people on the list. Because you can't tell people when to death. But dead people cannot vote. Because the people in the community know everybody. If they see a dead man coming, they dash out of the polling booth. Maybe only the presiding officer and the clerk might stay there because they know if they mess up, they could go to jail. So the integrity of our electoral process is in place. There is a good possibility that the people who come here in Grenada to observe the election, they generally pass into different polling stations. They make a pass to see what's going on. The candidates who themselves run in normally would pass in their polling division to see everything all right. And they can spend 5 minutes there with their agents. They can spend 5 minutes in the polling station together with the agent. After 5 minutes, the presiding officer would say, one have to leave. The only time if you have an open vote in the polling station, the candidate cannot be in the polling station. He have to leave. He cannot witness an open vote. And if you have to have an open vote, then everybody in the polling station have to take an oath to keep the name of that person, the elector who they vote for, secret. And the agent can object to anybody coming inside. Before the person come in, while the person inside there, before the person leave. The agent of that political party, or that candidate, not political party, that candidate could object. And you have to record the objection. You have to take a note of it. You have to record the objection. So that later, if it is challenged, you have the evidence there and it could be dealt with. People are asked to leave their cell phones on the table. So there will be some container, a basket, a bag, someplace where you could put your telephone visible for everybody. In the polling station there, everybody sit down so where everybody could see what's going on. So our electoral process is very, very good, you know. And I think Grenadians should be proud of it. the politicians themselves should song that so people know the system is good, the system is credible. And the intention is you must able to make certain that the elector gets his vote. Somebody asked who going to win, if it's NDC or NNP. Well, I think the person that is going to win the election depends on who the elector wants. Election is free and fair. So by 6 o'clock, 6:30 on Thursday, we're supposed to know who is going to win. And in real times, it is quick. It's not about days. It's not hours. The vote is checked in the polling station, and the agents have the information. Everybody in the polling station would know the result in the polling station. And that presiding officer, whoever that person is going to call in to the returning officer and give them the information in real time. And as they give them it, it will appear online in real time. So if they finish check by 5:30, by 5:35, the world is supposed to know what is the result for that polling station. But the official result will be the next day, because you must go back and check all the votes the next day, particularly in constituencies where the vote is close. If the vote is not close, sometimes the agents and then don't bother to even come. But if the vote is close, they will take keen interest in the recount. And after you finish count, that ballot box will remain sealed for 1 year. 1 year and a day. You have to keep the results in that ballot box sealed. So in case somebody queried, they could take 1 year and 1 day before they query. Our electoral process in Grenada is free, it is fair, and it is free from fear. And I think it's very important that all and sundry should know that, and we should be proud of it. Sometimes you hear people make statements, and then you wonder. It is unnecessary. The system is good. So people should know about the system. All the politician agents, the candidate agents, they would have had meetings. They would have had meetings with the returning officer. They would have meetings with their own people, training them about the political process. So I think Grenada could be very proud of what we have here. Sometimes we run down our country too much. And I always say it is not good for our children. If your children hear you tearing and saying Grenada down, it is not good. You have them growing negative. They believe that they have to go to other countries for greener pastures. While people is coming to Grenada for green pastures, some of our young people here travel. They go to the United States, England, Frankfurt, other countries in the world. And they go to these countries because they believe Grenada is not, I cannot make it if I stay in Grenada. That is the expression that they have. And these things come from our constant negative attitude towards our own country. So I'll tell you some positives now about Grenada. I'll give you some positives, 5 or 6 or 7 positive things about Grenada that makes Grenada, in this respect, second to none, comparable with the best and better than most. Where electricity, telephone, water, and internet is concerned, 90% of our people have access to these facilities. And I'm being very conservative. Grenada have the most land owners in the region. And that is significant. Because it means nobody can tell you what to plant. Sometimes I hear people talking about industries and etc. Nobody can prevent you to put industries on your land. Nobody can tell you what crop to plant. If you want to plant macaroni on your land, nobody can stop you, because you have freehold. You are the owner of the land. Grenada in that respect is better than any other country in the region. What Africa is fighting to do today, Grenada has done starting under Gary and continue under all governments have tried to provide lands for people. We have the best network of roads in the region. It makes communication easy, moving from one point to another one. The network of roads. And the roads are relatively good. When the sister from Jamaica said, where she passed, she don't see potholes, she was correct. Those little micro cracks you see in the road, that is a joke for some country. In Jamaica and Guyana and Trinidad and England and America. Those little cracks you see in the road, in some of the bigger countries, that is a joke. And you know we have one of the freest press in the world. You just have to listen to some of the radio personalities. They say anything they want. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Hey, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller.
Afternoon. Mr. Pierre, I want to speak about right. And I do believe everyone has a right, but then and freedom to see what you want. But then you have a right to see what you want. But the person that you see when you want to see something and try to see things about them, and you know that is not true, they also have a right. Okay? And I do believe that someone may come to you and say, Mr. Pierre, I want you to do that. You have to look at the consequence. Because the person might tell you to do it, right? And then you go and do it. And after you do it, you face the consequence. So then you cannot go and say, well, Mr. John tell me to say that. There is no evidence to prove that Mr. John tell you to say that about a person. You understand? And I do believe people have to think about what they want to say. Because when you might say something and bring something to the public about John Jones, and you know, and the person tell to say that is not the truth. I do believe the person who you saying that about and against about it. Mr. P, have a blessing.
Yes, caller, thank you. Yes, with rights come responsibility. It doesn't mean that you should go on radio and libel people. That is why you hear a lot of callers use pseudonyms and they say it's rumored and they use ways to color. But as a people, we need to be very tolerant, and particularly when you go in politics. Even the court is more lenient to people criticizing politicians than other professionals. When you go in politics, you expect some level of criticism. And you don't want thin-skinned politicians in a democracy because they have power and they could be very vindictive. So we have the freedom and we have to encourage people to respect one another, to respect the institutions, to respect posts. You know, you don't go tearing. Sometimes even on Facebook, on social media, you're discussing an issue with people and they jump on your family and tear them down. And as a result, some members of families do not want the children get involved in public because they fear that the name will end up in the mud. And it's unfortunate. As a result, some party do not get the best level of representation. But I still say we have to be tolerant. Some people don't like to censor art. For instance, you have artists who draw nude pictures. You listen to some of the songs on the radio, and they have some very crude and rude lyrics. But some people would have advocated against censorship. Some people say, better you play those songs at a certain time in the night when children are sleeping, rather than censor the songs. In Grenada, you could curse Jesus Christ. You can't do that in Pakistan. You can't curse Muhammad. Somebody in one of the countries speak about Muhammad's wife Aisha, causing real problem. You say you can't speak about Muhammad's wife. And Muhammad had a couple wives, or several wives. But in our society, and particularly the Christian influence in our society, help us to be very tolerant. You see, Jesus Christ said, turn the other cheek. That's why I like this fella called Jesus. The tolerant fella. He said they hit you on one side, turn the other cheek. You don't mean literally you go let people box up all the teeth you have in your mouth. What it means is to forgive readily. They teach you don't let the sun set on your anger. So as a society, as a Christian influence in our society, we're supposed to be a very tolerant people. Democracy gives us that opportunity to be more tolerant. In Cuba, you don't have a free press. In Russia, you don't have a free press. In China, you don't have a free press. But in Grenada, we have a free press. We must count our blessings. Some people went in a church in Nigeria and killed over 50 people. We have priests from Nigeria here who knows the place, who been in that church, and who was saddened after that killing. In Grenada, we don't have that. We are much more tolerant people. And that's why sometimes I'm taken aback when people say we're not a Christian society. We are a Christian society. The majority of us follow the Christian religion. It doesn't mean we are going to heaven. It doesn't mean we're perfect. But we are seriously influenced by Christianity. And we practice some of the dictates and some of the instructions of Christianity. The majority of us are baptized Christians. Some of us jump out again out of the church. Sometimes we curse the church. When we want to marry, we go and marry back in the church. Sometimes we curse the church again. When we're dead, they bring us back in the church and bury us. So generally we believe, but as we say, all men fall short of the glory of God. So our society is very tolerant. And I think coming forward, the election is right there, but we must continue encouraging Grenadians not to tear down our country unnecessarily. We don't have to distort the truth. We don't have to fabricate lies. We don't have to make things in the lab just to make Grenada look bad. Grenada is in a better position than a lot of countries. Take, for instance, our schools. Our schools, the structure, the conditions of the building, the electricity, the telephone, the water system, the toilet system in our schools is better today than any other time in our history. Schools are better staffed today. Our teachers are better trained than any other time in our history. And they're better paid too. Well, that is relative because of value. But they are better paid than any other time in our history. And they negotiate the salary. They have unions who negotiate on behalf of them. Let me give you an example of a primary school in Ticolo. The primary school have 200 children. The primary school have a principal, a deputy principal. They have departmental heads. They have about 13 teachers. They have about 10 imani. And when you say imani, imanis that in the teaching service are people that want to be teachers. Some of them may not have maths or English. And some of them they get maths and English, but they don't get a vacant post yet. So they're quite capable. They have 2 cooks in the school. They have 2 cleaners. They have a hand sanitizer. That is somebody that they to sanitize children. They have a groundsman. And they have a security. They still have access to a counselor. A counselor in school is for children hormones jumping up in their body. So the counselor tries to settle down the hormones. and most of them don't play any sports now because they have walked the role, but they have coaches access. And they have internet in the school, so after school, the children and the parents still have access to the internet system. So I constantly ask people sometimes, what is it you want? What is it preventing you from succeeding? And I think it's only a question of our attitude and our mentality. Because we cry through so much, we don't know what we want, and we don't know when we get it. So we could have what we want, but we didn't know what. So what is it we want? When you compare that with the United States of America, if you have money in America, no problem. If you go into a private school in America, no problem. Ask our brothers and sisters in the United States of America about public schools in America. Ask them what number of children go to, how much children in a class. What is the teacher to children ratio in a class? Grenada, St. Vincent, Dominica, St. Lucia is small countries. In Dominica, some schools have 60 children in it. The Prime Minister was on the radio begging people to make children. But what we do in these small islands, we disfigure these islands with criticism and lies that we manufacture. And when we know the truth, we must challenge it. Those who are disfiguring the truth on social media, we must challenge them. Because we know the truth. Because we're speaking about Grenada. And when our children in the house hear the parents speak so negatively about the country, these children have no love for the country they live. And they tend to go away in greener pastures. Sometimes life shock take them in America, but they're ashamed to come back. They're ashamed to come back. I hear a number of people speak about agriculture, and I always think that we must inform people that a lot of the four-wheel drive you see farmers have, they get 100% concession. Government provide 100% concession for any farmer who want to purchase a vehicle, a pump, fencing to fence the land for animals, or other agricultural equipments. 100% concession on that. Farmers have access to extension service. If farmers have a problem, some extension officers will even prepare proposals for them. You have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Talking about schools, and we are so fortunate in Grenada, where some of these students are even being paid bus fare and so to get to school. In Nigeria, parents big is there to send their children to school, and talking about primary school. And sometimes when they don't pay the school fees, they send them home. And we are so fortunate, and we're not making the use of what we have and talking about, and comparing us to other places like Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, caller, I think this is important because we always have the enemies of progress in Grenada running down this country. And they continue to propagate falsehood, and people believe it. So we who know different have to come out and say. When I hear a farmer complaining, I always ask, what you complaining about? What is it you want? The land belongs to you? Yes. What is it you want? You have a four-wheel drive vehicle. So even four-wheel drive is for off-road. So you have access to your land. What you complaining about? I always ask these farmers that. We have a lot of farmers with small, what you call micro farmers. In the realm of things, what we have here is very micro farmers. Between quarter of an acre and an acre of land, 5 acres of land, is a very small farmer. You have economy and scale. And some farmers want to plant every tree in the world in the land. So the tree grows very tall and they are not very productive. And that is why the tumbling effect took place and 80% of our nutmeg fell. Because the tree is so tall, the root system in a nutmeg is not like a mango. And nutmeg leaves are very difficult to fall. Branches doesn't break easy like golden apple. So when the wind hit against the nutmeg tree, the tumbling effect took place. So the farmers not hearing. The farmers know they have to plant certain trees 15 feet apart or 30 feet apart. They're not obeying the extension officer. Nobody can tell them not to do it, you know. We're not in Russia. We're not in Cuba. Because the farmer owns the land. Farmers do not pay tax on agricultural land. You don't pay tax. You have to be making $3,000 or more in Grenada before you pay more tax than a vagrant. What is the tax threshold in St. What is the tax threshold in Barbados? What is the tax threshold in the United States of America? Irrespective of all the things we hear people saying, a lot of it is said to destroy the image of this country. Grenada have a better tax threshold than most countries in the Caribbean. One professional from the Ministry of Education about 7 years ago said to me that there is no child, no person, no opposition leader, no member in Grenada that could say they cannot send their child to school because they don't have the basic requirements. Every year there's checker, you know. I say, and I've continued to say that on the radio. She challenged me, go and find one. She said, if you find one, just give me the name and we will go and get them. So no child in Grenada cannot say they cannot go to school because they don't have the basic requirement. Government pay bus for some children. They give them lunch in school. I don't know if it's $2 or $5 for lunch. Somebody might be able to come and tell me. But if the children don't have lunch, they pay for them. There are some schools that offer karate and the children don't even come into the karate class. The parents is not sending them. There are schools that have musical instrument rattling in the school. And people volunteer to teach music, but I don't think they don't bother any of them. There are schools in Grenada that have tennis board packed up in the storeroom. So what we need here is a real change of attitude. You see, if you get up in the morning and when you ask people, how are you today? They say they're okay. Poke a poke. Thing kinda. Very rare you hear somebody say, I'm feeling good. Outside is great. People always very negative. And your children are growing up under this negative environment, and more often than not, it makes them not assertive. They doubting themselves. Because mommy complaining all day, thing bad, no good. A suffering, Lord come. When they go to church, the pastor praying for God to come. Oh Lord God come now. Trouble, God come. God's saying you don't here to solve problem, not to call on God to come. He said the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. So he's saying you don't here to harvest. You, instead of you harvesting and asking God for strength to harvest more, you throw your hands up in the air, asking God to come. Spending a whole time about the ending of the world. The Bible tells you, don't excite yourself about the ending of the world. But you're doing that. So we're creating the wrong environment for our children. The 15% or 10 or 15% of Grenadians that understand, they have it well locked down. Their children are doing very well in school. Their children are doing very well. And I believe this group must talk to their neighbor more and encourage the neighbor to change your negative attitude. You could succeed. But we're too negative. And it is affecting us generally. It affects you in education. It affects you in school. You're in Grenada, but every day you're complaining, sandfly, mosquitoes. People, the Ministry of Health tell you to control the breeding site of mosquitoes. You're not controlling the breeding site. You have a vase in the house, days you don't change water. But fella say you can't take as if you don't, and New York they want to go, you know. As if you don't have mosquito in New York. Too much of mosquito. All the man have to do is to throw the water from the vase, control the breeding site around his house, because mosquito does not come from St. George's and go in St. David's. Mosquito doesn't come out in Mackay and go in Paradise. Mackay mosquito stay in Mackay. Congotong mosquito stay in Congotong. They don't live in Kumande. So all you have to do is to control the breeding site. But because we are so negative, because we're crying down the country, we don't control the sites. And we cry down the country. But we are affecting our own children in our home. Our children is not assertive. They're very negative. And it has its multiplying impact on the country in general. And I think these are things we could change. These are basic mentality and attitudinal change. Remember, if you watch around in your community, 20 or 30 years ago, Grenadians own all the business in the town. Most of the business in town. But we've been selling all the business because as soon as one generation reach retirement age or they become incapacitated, there is no children to run the business. Because all the children gone looking for greener pastures. While their parents are young millionaires in Grenada. And we angry with the other ethnic groups that come. But they're looking for greener pastures too. So when they reach in Grenada, they say, yes, this is heaven. That's the area we've been searching for. And immediately, they see a wall of opportunities. Well, your children would not see the opportunities because you blinded them with your negative expressions, your negative culture. You tearing down a Grenada. You blind them with that. And it's difficult for them to see the opportunities in Grenada. So they go to New York and they live in a cubicle in New York. Some of them have to reverse to go in the toilet. And they have to pay serious tax every fortnight. And if they don't pay the tax, then they get bad credit rating. And it's difficult for them to get rent. Every day, over 6,000 people are evicted. Some of them living in their cars. Some of them line up for free medical health. They have to go since the night. They're camping out to get free medical health in the United States of America. You don't have to believe me. You could call your relatives in America and ask them. When we go in Grenada in the hospital, we don't want to wait 3 hours. If we wait 3 hours for the doctor, it's real war. We could wait 3 hours for an entertainer. We could wait 3 hours for the place where they're selling pizza or chicken or something. but we cannot. We're complaining because we have a view that Grenada is not good. And some people help us with all sorts of nonsense. And I think the time has come for us to face reality and for us to challenge the enemies of progress. And that's why I always invite you on my program. Don't believe me readily when I speak. Because a lot of people are using the media, using these shows to push propaganda and falsehoods. So I always encourage you to do your own little research. You don't have to go far. Just go in the communities. Start to observe in the communities. Ask the children in school, how much children in your class? Start to ask your own children, how many children in your class? Sometimes you see the check-in, they didn't even realize it was 9. How much teachers you have? Sometimes they tell you 3 or 2 because they have Imani and they have an ex-teacher. You know, ask them. I believe now the majority of our children have tablets. I don't know what age they reach because I don't have much direct contact with the schools these days. But I know a lot of children have tablets. I see children as early as 10 years with tablet in their hand. So they have tablets. Grenada perhaps is leading in Caribbean countries in providing these gadgets for their children. Why are we complaining so? Yes, I know the politics, where the politics come because you have 2 main political parties. We always have to try to destroy one to promote the other. But there are some truths that we should accept. We're not as bad as people claiming. I've heard the worst tearing down of the hospital system. I see a number of people go to the United States, and the United States have, I think, King's County Hospital, either Queen or King. That is one of the hospitals in the world where you perhaps get the free treatment. I don't think they could ask you for your national, whether your passport or whether you're landed or what when you go to that hospital. So a lot of Grenadians you see that go for medical check is in King's County Hospital or these type of facilities they go in America. America is a superpower. Some of the operations that are done in America, you might find 1 in a year in Grenada. Take, for instance, a heart transplant, a kidney transplant. You might find thousands are done in the United States because of economy of scale. So when we have our medical doctors here, and after they work for the hospital for 5 years, then the United States, England, France, Germany, other countries woo them to come there. Because why 5 years? They want a doctor with 5 years experience. These big hospitals, they don't want a doctor that just trained. A doctor that just trained does make too much mistakes. Too much people just die under their hand. So they want a doctor with 5 years experience. And they would believe after 5 years, you are relatively good. Because in these countries, they sue a lot. So when we train our doctors, and we spend $100,000, $200,000 on them, after 5 years, they get jobs into greener pastures. And Grenada suffer. And Grenada continue to train. So we practically manufacturing medical doctors for the United States of America. Brothers and sisters, we could change. I believe we could change things overnight. When I say overnight, 5, 10 years, we could make a significant difference. We must stop tearing down Grenada unnecessarily. We don't have to distort the truth. We could speak the truth. And we must start to take on those who have the habit that distorting the truth and tearing down our country. And we're glad to for you to be with us today. We'll back with you tomorrow between 12 and 1 as we continue. And maybe tomorrow the politics will be a little bit more hot because the voting of the police will end at 5 o'clock today. But you will not get results. The votes will be checked on the 23rd. Thank you very much.
Raise your voices high, sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel the hearts beat as one. Celebrating song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum. The great and